Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inside the Quality Awards. My name is Ralph Peterson, and in this video, we are going to go over question P2A3 of the Bronze Quality Award application. And this question gets a lot of people tripped up, and it is super important, especially at the silver and the gold. And dare I say, this is a very valuable question for your quality assurance program. Let's get right into it. Okay, P2A3, what are your key, keep in mind, this is a number. If we were to put a number to the word key, because it's most important, it's 1 to 5 with, in this situation, 2 to 3 would be the ideal. We're looking for 2 to 3 key sources, circle the word sources because that's the actual question, 2 to 3 key sources of comparative data that you use from inside and outside the long-term care profession. So this question is asked, it's a what question? We're asking you to identify your 2 to 3, most important, again, it's probably not more than 5, probably more than 1, but not more than 5, key sources of comparative data that you get, that you use inside and outside, from both inside and outside the long-term care profession. So the best place to start, in my opinion, is just with this word data. So let's just break this out just to be a little bit more clear. The type of data that we're talking about, and then we'll talk about how we use the data. Okay, so the type of data that we're talking about for the Quality Award program, for all of us in long-term care anyway, we really can break up the data into what we consider 5 buckets. There's clinical data. There is customer data. There's employee data. There's governance data, what we also call leadership data. And then there's financial data. So there's clinical data, falls, UTIs, rehospitalizations, antipsychotics. There's employee data. Customer data, their satisfaction levels, their engagement levels, there's a number of incidents or reportables, grievances, number of grievances, the employee data, turnover rate, retention rate, engagement rate, satisfaction rate. Governance data could be a number of deficiencies, number of complaint surveys, star rating. Financial data, of course, is census, profit, loss, EBITDA. You get it, right? So when we're talking about data, what are your key sources of comparative data? This is what we're talking about. Where do you get this kind of data, this kind of comparative data? Okay, from inside and outside the long-term care profession. The next word we need to focus on is this word comparative. Comparative. How do we use comparative data? And for this word, I like to do a little quick refresh on QAPI, Quality Assurance and Performance Improvement. So QAPI, the QA part of QAPI, there's 2 sides to QAPI. There's a QA side, and then there's a performance improvement side. A lot of people say that's one meeting. We all know here at the Quality Award program or at the Quality Assurance, we know that they're 2 different, they might be the same meeting. We might go over it in the same meeting, but they are 2 completely different agendas. The quality assurance agenda is a past view. The performance improvement part, we're not going to go over in this example, but it is a future view. The QA side says how, or asks, how are we doing? And the performance improvement says, hey, can we do any better? Can we do better? But we're not going to, let me erase all this. We're not going to worry about the performance improvement side for this example. We're only going to look at the QA side, the quality assurance side, and ask not only how are we doing, but how do we know how are we doing? When you're asking how are we doing, we want to always put into mind and put it into context saying, well, relative to what or who? Relative to what or who? What do you mean, how are we doing? Compared to what? Compared to who? So let's say that we're part of the QA team and we're looking at clinical. Let's just pull a clinical number out here. We'll say this is falls. Now we have a clinical graph here, and let's say that I give ourselves a positive trend. I say, okay, this is what our falls data looks like over the last 4 quarters. This is quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. Now you can clearly see, even though I didn't assign an actual number, you can see if I were to draw a line, from the first quarter to the fourth quarter, this is called a trend line. And you can see that this is what we would consider a positive trend, meaning it is going from high to low, which is exactly what we want when we're talking about falls, right? We want falls to go down. Wherever you're starting, we want it to go down. Okay. So this is one way of telling whether or not you're doing a good job. If we were to say, hey, to a nursing department, how are we doing? Nursing department can go, hey, look at our falls data. You can see that we're doing really, really great. You see this? We went from a number of, 5 falls in the first quarter down to 3 falls in the fourth quarter. And we're trending. We've been consistently trending down all year. Perfect. Now we go, well, that's really great. It's really great news. But how are we compared to our local competitors? Oh, okay. Well, let's say that we added a local comparison. And the local comparison, this is local, our local comparison is a little higher than our fourth quarter. Their fourth quarter average is here. Our fourth quarter is here. Now we're going to compare ourselves. Fourth quarter to their fourth quarter of the aggregate of our fourth quarter local number. And if we were to draw a little trend line just across these two, you would see, you know what? We are doing better than our local comparison. We're like, oh, well, that is amazing. Love that. What about our state level? How are we doing compared to the state? How are we doing compared to the state? And let's say our state was way down here, and this is our state number. And we would go, you know what? Compared to the state, we're not doing very good. Because although we've trended over the last 4 quarters, we've trended really well, compared to the state, we're not doing all that great. But good news, I have some good news to show you. Compared to the national numbers, we are doing way better. If we continue that trend line from where we started straight across, we're doing better than our local competitors, and we're doing way better than the national competitors, even though it doesn't look like we're doing so well according to the state. Okay, so that is the importance of using comparative data, and this is how we use comparative data. We use it to show how are we doing, not just internally. Internally, we're looking at trends. Externally, we're looking at levels. Internally, we're looking at trend lines, and then for comparisons, we're looking at levels. How are we compared to state, national, and our local competitors? Now that you understand how it all works, this is what we're looking for. The question that we're asking here in this question is, what are your key sources? Where do you get the local, the state, and the national numbers? Where do you even find this data? That's this question. You're saying, okay, we're doing really great compared to state. How do you know? Where do you get this state data? And although there are probably a dozen places that you get this information, I'll tell you the most common. The most common are things like Medicare, Medicare.gov, or Nursing Home Compare. You can probably find comparative data there. Or TrendTracker, which is put out by AHCA. So use one of the tools AHCA uses, TrendTracker. They give you all kinds of comparative data. Or you might also be looking at your 5-star report. The 5-star report even gives you comparative data, but so does a lot of other places like Pinnacle. Pinnacle is a organization that does surveys. Pepper reports, CASPER reports, Point Click Care gives comparative data. Maybe your pharmacy, your pharmacy might be giving you local or state, national comparative data on things like usage or error rates or antipsychotic meds, right? Like there's all kinds of sources of data that you use, that you have access to compare yourself, your relative performance to your competitors, local, state, and national. What we want to know is what are your most important key sources of comparative data. So I would just pick 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. Again, you probably don't have 5 most important, 6, 7, 8 most important. It's likely 2, 3. So you might be answering this question. XYZ nursing homes key sources of comparative data include CMS 5-star reports, CASPER reports, PB&J reports, TrendTracker, nursing home, right? You're just going to name your what do you use most often? What does your quality assurance team use most often to get comparative data? That's what we're asking for. Now, there's 2 parts to this question. One part we just answered. All of this are what we call inside the long-term care profession, meaning this data is only showing you data based on other organizations, senior care organizations, that are inside the senior care profession, obviously, right? But we want to know also, what are your key sources of comparative data outside the long-term care profession? Well, what does that mean, right? What does that mean? Let's say this first and foremost. You're likely not going to find comparative data on clinical metrics from outside the long-term care industry, but you might find customer data that you can compare, employee data you might compare, governance, and even financial data. You could probably find a source outside the long-term care industry that you can compare to yourself to see how are we doing. Like, let's say there's a couple of companies, like Glassdoor is a company, and Indeed is another company. Workforce is another company. A lot of these companies are job boards where people can put up their resume, their application, and businesses can post listings for jobs, right? Well, there's also a lot of these companies, a lot of these job boards have added a little star rating or a rating system, a 1 to 5, a 1 to 10 rating on how employees rate what it's like working for that company. And so I know Glassdoor does it. I know Indeed does it. I know, there's another one. Workforce does it. These are online applications, and they offer comparative data that goes like working at a manufacturing company has the same 5 or 10 star rating as the working in a nursing home. And so you can go, I can compare what it's like working in long-term care, and I can compare what it's like working for me as opposed to working for the local fast food chain or the local box store or the local manufacturer. Another great place to use comparative data from outside the long-term care industry is Google reviews. So even Google reviews is a metrics that you can go, okay, compared to all the other industries, not just long-term care industries, all the other industries that I'm competing with for employees and customers, my Google rating, my 5-star Google rating, is an outside the long-term care profession that I can use. So you can also use turnover rates, employee engagement, satisfaction surveys, customer satisfaction surveys. You can use accident and injury reports, especially from OSHA logs, when the number of accidents for employees as opposed to number of accidents for employees in another industry or another organization outside of the long-term care profession. And keep in mind, we're looking for 2 to 3 most important total. So you don't have to have 2 to 3 inside and 2 to 3 outside. We're looking for 2 to 3 total. So if you gave me 2 inside, like we use TrendTracker and Nursing Home Compare for inside the long-term care industry and Google reviews for outside the long-term care industry, that would be answering the question 100% for me. Okay, there it is. That is P2A3. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any additional questions, please do not hesitate to leave questions in the comments or shoot me an email at ralph@ralphpeterson.com. And of course, if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to my channel, hitting the little notification bell. I am always uploading videos, giving you the inside scoop on how to respond, what the examiners are looking for at all 3 levels, the bronze, the silver, and the gold quality award. And of course, if you would like to work with me one-on-one, if you are interested in attending some of my deep dive workshops, we go really, really deep into the Quality Award program, reach out to me, ralph@ralphpeterson.com. Just put Quality Awards in the subject line, letting me know, is it the bronze you're interested, the silver, or the gold? We have workshops going on all year long for all 3 levels. ralph@ralphpeterson.com. Thank you so much for watching. Please share this video with your friends, your colleagues. Give it a thumbs up if you like it, and comment and tell everybody about it. I really appreciate you. I'll see you later.